Thank you very much for coming here to see where the always lives in the contemporary Brazilian music film season, a season which is an output of the research project towards an intermedial history of Brazilian cinema, a research project founded by the AHRC and the FAPESP, and that is developed in the Department of Film, Theatre and Television here in the University of Reading. Well, today we have a very special film. It's a film called Where the Always Lives, Onde A Coruja Dorme. It's a film about a very famous singer in Brazil, Bezerra da Silva, a singer that became very famous in the 70s and 80s and 90s because his lyrics about the life in the favela, but always through a very sarcastical lens, with a lot of irony, a lot of sarcasm to approach the tragedy and the injustices and the inequalities in the favela. I think the best thing that we can do is just watch the film, and then afterwards we will have a very interesting Q&A with one of the directors of the film, Márcia Derraik, who is with here today. Thank you very much, Márcia, for being here and coming from London in this freezing day. So afterwards we will have the Q&A with Márcia, and as every week on Saturday there will be at 8 p.m. in Pau Brasil a music session with Steve Pierce and Ife Tolentino playing their repertoire with some songs by Bezerra da Silva as well. Yes, so let's watch the film. I hope you enjoy Where the Always Lives. It's a very enjoyable film, and let's talk about it afterwards. Thank you very much. Well, I think the most interesting, maybe if you want to explain something very short about the production process of the film, and then afterwards we can open to the audience to any question that the audience may have.
Okay, hello. Good night. Actually, first, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. It was a pleasure actually since the beginning when you contacted me and did the interview, the way that you looked to the project, to the film, and the careful that you had with all of these. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here. This film, I mean, we start to film in 2001. It was a long time ago. It was a big process, just which includes what was really difficult was to clean the film in terms of autoral copyright, because you're making a move about the songwriters. We are using their songs, they sing in their songs, but we couldn't use because you have to go to a crazy and bureaucratic process with all editors and recordings companies, and it was like a nightmare. That but finally we cleaned the movie, and I can't show them because not a long time ago we only could have pirate copies of the movie that is about the songwriters that sing their own compositions. So it was a bit Brazilian stuff to digest.
So in YouTube there is a version of the film which is a bit shorter, and that it's slightly different, but it's the one that circulated before they could do a clean version, right? So in YouTube you will find a slightly different version, which is the one that that circulated, because you had to pay to the recording companies, even if the singers were singing that songs in the bar. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, if I cannot show, even I cannot, of course, make any money, but I cannot even show the movie. I remember that I received 1 or 2 calls like, what are you doing? We will process you. Because then if you go to, then it's a Kafka situation if you go to a process with these guys and in Brazil, and then it's a nightmare. So we are quite afraid, but there was, I don't know, because Bezerra is very popular there. And the movie had his own legs, and then people were making money. I told about that. People were making money with the film on the internet. They are selling copies, but we are not. It was something. Look, we are not. It's not about us. I mean, people were doing that, and then and because they could never prove anything for us. But now it's nice because you can do whatever you want with the music. It's clean.
Yeah, I think we can open the discussion to the audience because I'm sure you have different questions about the composers, about the production process. Yeah, we have a question here.
Thank you very much for a wonderful film. One thing that's very obvious is there's hardly any women in it, and the women that you do show, their eyes blanked out. There's no woman's point of view at all from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's entirely, there's a totally male society in the favelas.
Actually, it's another point about authorization. I cannot use their image in my movie because actually I don't know them and I don't have the authorization to use their face on the movie. So we had once more to take off these images. And then we said, oh, but you take off this image. I know that can be a little bit sexist, maybe that point, but we would like to keep that. And then the solution for us was to put that tags, because in Brazil, when you expose someone in a crime, but they are under 18, you use this target. And because they are so familiar with this aesthetic, we just use that as kind of to give this, to keep the aesthetic.
There's no women's point of view at all in it. There's all men that are interviewed, and the songwriters, the singers.
Yeah, the only men. And as a woman, when I went there, there was 2 or 3 composers, women composers, and of course, as a woman, I'd like to interview them. But then they were the wives of the composers or the lovers, because they went to give, like, you're my lover, now you'll be the composer with me, and so they were not, and the movie were about them, so, yeah. I went to, my next movie will be about girls, funky girls in Brazil. Actually, it would be, my next movie after that was about a feminist in Brazil, just to make things clear here. And my next one, I never found money to realize that it's a movie about the funky girls in Brazil. They are kind of, it's the, maybe not sexist, but sexual in terms of speech, attitude, and posture, but no money till now for that.
Hi, thanks for the great film. My question is about your decision not to tell the biography of Bezerra da Silva. So we know about all the composers whose songs he uses, but we know very little about him. So why did you make that decision?
Yeah, because Bezerra, he died, I think 5 years ago, but he was a pop star. So his history, not for most of you, but in Brazil, everybody knows about him, about his story, about his life, his bio, and and people really didn't know about this anonymous guys that was behind him. And when we decided to have this as the focus of the movie, then that was our option to make a movie about them and about what they sing. But I regret, because we film it, and when you have the focus, and because you're obsessive with your focus, you don't want to lose yourself in the middle of so many things when you're filming. I remember lots of scenes that we just, when we turn off the camera, and then Bezerra starts to be really relaxing in a way that, and we laugh with him lots, because he kind of left this kind of attitude, hip-hop attitude that he had, and he was only making jokes and making fun, but the camera was off, and of course today I regret, because, documentaries issues.
He's never relaxed, really. He is always in a kind of attitude like trying to affirm very strongly his ideas. Bezerra. So the others, the composers, it seems that you as directors felt maybe more comfortable with the composers than with Bezerra.
Yeah, but actually, I can tell that he was quite fun, very nordestino. Nordestino is the guy from northeast of Brazil. They are quite fun. They make jokes about their tragedy. They can kind of be a showman, and actually he's very funny, and he could be here and just start to say jokes about his own tragedy. For example, a day that he arrived at home, and a guy was with his pajamas. And he arrived at home with his wife, and the guy using his pajamas. And he said, "God, look, take the wife, just leave the pajama, please." These kind of things. It's funny, it's funny. Yeah.
Thank you for the film. Lots of the footage, it looked like it was so intimate it almost resembled like home videos. And I was just curious how much of the footage in the film was stuff that you shot, and how much was actually like film that someone gave you from their own private video collection.
Yeah, because as I said, we filmed it in 2001, so the aesthetic is 90s actually. It's mini TV or DV cam. It's like the resolution is, it's a 90s aesthetic because of that. When we start to film, it was the first digital cameras, like in tape. That, so. And yeah, it's because the images, they are old. The film is new, but it's old, you have lots of material, but you were able to use them recently, like 8 years after that, so, yeah.
And what about the archival images, the older archival images?
The archival image was another option that we choose as well, because it's so contemporary what he talks about, and specifically nowadays in Brazil today, what's going on in Brazil at the moment, when we have the army in Rio, in the favelas, and just taking, for example, if the police find me with marijuana in my pocket, I'll be fine. I will need to give money, probably. Or if I decide to don't give money, I go to the police station. It will be boring, will be a hell, but I will be fine. But if I was black and poor, then it would be another thing. Even if I was pregnant, for example, just about to have a baby, and I'm with marijuana in my pockets, then it would be, you can go to jail. And then it's not only the police, including the judge can. That's why they try to explain there, when in Brazil, not a long time ago, if you have drugs with you would be in jail for traffic. Now they divided. So you can be for traffic, you can be as consumer. They are both crimes, but of course with different penalties. But who will decide exactly if I am a consumer or I'm a seller, I'm a dealer? Who will decide it? Probably my color, my skin color, and the money that I can pay for that. And it's horrible because it's a reality that it's so present at the moment and getting worse that we choose these archival images as aesthetic as well, just to emphasize,
to highlight or to stress
that it's something that happened since always and probably will happen for a long time. That's sad.
Yeah, along these lines, I have another comment relating, perhaps the audience here will not be aware, that during the military dictatorship, torture was routine in Brazil. This film is post-dictatorship in Brazil, but what becomes clear is that although for the majority of the population, or let's say for one part of the population, torture has finished and officially not used anymore, all these people you interviewed talk about torture as a routine. And one thing that was not translated in their speeches is pau de arara, which is a kind of torture where a tree trunk or a stick is inserted under your knees and your hands are tied around your knees, and then you were hanged upside down and stay like that for days sometimes. And so they talk about pau de arara as something that all of them have gone through, or most people they know have gone through. And other techniques like waterboarding and burning and all that, they talked about that and laughing, and as a, you know, like the thing that you naturally will go through. And that's all about the squealing, about ratting, the verb that they use there. So obviously the people, before they already know that they're going to, that's what's going to happen to them. Before it even starts, they are already squealing because they are too scared. And that's the reason. It's not just a simple slap in the face or something like that. It's serious torture in the same way that it was practiced in the military dictatorship, and it continues to happen in Brazil to this day to that population. Obviously not for people like you and me, but it is a reality, and it's terrible. I just wanted to highlight that because perhaps it's not clear from the translation what we
Lots of things probably not that. It was difficult to translate this movie, but lots of nuances that, complicado.
More things?
Thank you very much for to be here tonight, and it was a pleasure to be here, and thank you guys, thank you Lucy, it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Márcia, for your film and for being here with us. And well, thank you very much for all of you. Thank you very much also to Rogers and Archie that are filming the session today, to the people in the Reading Film Theatre, and to Andy, the projectionist who is there. And just to remind you that we will have this Saturday, as every Saturday at 8 p.m. in Pau Brasil, there will be a show with some songs by Bezerra da Silva, just book before to run before to book. And then next Wednesday we will have the film Tita's Life Even Looks Like a Party, which is the only film in this season about Brazilian rock. It's a very funny documentary, really, a very interesting documentary as well about Brazil in the 80s and 90s, and I strongly recommend you I encourage you to join us in that session as well. Thank you very much, Márcia, and have a good evening.